This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cavins.
Well, this is a different setup. I'm in Virginia Beach at a hotel. Greg is where he usually is and is in his workroom, but we're going to try to do this, and hopefully it goes okay. It's the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast brought to you by Athletic Greens. Of course, we're talking about the one-stop shopping for 75 high-quality vitamins to help you start your day right. And let's start, Greg, with some headlines. And really, we begin with David Andrews. The injury did not look great on Sunday when he left the game against the Jets. What are you hearing? Is it actually possible that Andrews could play in this game tomorrow against the Vikings?
Well, he's listed as questionable, but I think that's highly questionable. I mean, look, he left the game with he basically had to be carried off the field. Very similar without the screaming, I think, as Mac Jones. But this quick a turnaround, there's no way he's playing. I assume he was on the practice field. I don't think anybody actually saw him do it, and that led him to be coined limited on the one day that they were on the practice field this week. And so I think this is just Belichick playing games. I think he was just out there. And David, can you go out there so we can list you as questionable? I would say the chances of him playing are about 2%. It's going to be James Ferentz. I would be surprised if Andrews even made the trip, which we might hear about tonight at some point. But I don't think there's much chance.
I mean, Andrews is a tough guy, and he looked like he was in a lot of pain. So I'd be shocked if he was out there tomorrow night. It'd be fantastic news for the Patriots and great news for Cole Strange, but I would be very surprised if he was out there. We know somebody who's not going to be out there for the Jets, at least in the foreseeable future, Zach Wilson. And look, the Patriots have beaten that guy up throughout his NFL career up to this point. And he was so bad in that game on Sunday. He was even worse at the podium, handling the press conference the way he did, Greg. Robert Saleh has made the decision to go to Mike White. And at least for now, Zach Wilson is going to be sitting on the bench for the Jets.
Yeah, to me, it was more about the way he conducted himself after the game.
Right.
And, sort of the fallout from that. I thought it was interesting. I forget what whoever the guy is who runs Over the Cap, who's a Jets fan. Overthecap.com. He posted on his Twitter account a transcript of Mark Sanchez after one of his worst games. I think it was against the Patriots in 2009 or something like that. And it was the complete polar opposite of, Zach Wilson not taking any accountability after that game. Look, I didn't think after watching the film that Zach Wilson was horrible in that game. I mean, he definitely missed some throws and there he had some difficulties. The one that stands out is the one that bounced off McCourty's chest. He had Conklin, the tight end, was wide open in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
He catches that ball there inside the 20. If not, if Conklin breaks McCourty's tackle, who knows, maybe a touchdown. And it was perfectly drawn up. He was open, and his footwork was terrible. His shoulders were terrible. Same thing on the swing pass to Braxton Berrios, a few more passes in the game, and he just sailed it. I do think that, and we'll talk more about this game in a few minutes, but I thought that the Patriots really managed this game well. I don't think the Jets did on either side of the ball. I thought that Zach Wilson paid for some of those decisions, as far as his average depth of target was over 10 yards. Mac Jones's was barely over 4 yards.
Right.
To me, that's how you win that type of game, where the wind was a very real factor in that game. But for Zach Wilson, a young quarterback, to say what he did after the game and not take any accountability, you just can't be an NFL quarterback like that. You can't. And I would have benched him if he came out of that game and said all the right things afterwards, I think he'd be starting this week. But because of his attitude and the way he's conducted himself, I thought Robert Saleh had no choice but to sit him down. He's going to be inactive, not even in uniform. He's going to suffer that indignity standing there in his street clothes. I think they're trying to teach him a lesson to correct the course of his career right now. And hopefully it's the right things. He was available today, and he started saying the right things, which he said, the way I handled the situation wasn't right, according to the reporters who were there. I got to be a better football player, and then I got to be a better leader for these guys. I have an opportunity to turn the page here as a player and a leader. He said other things, all the right things for now. And this is the way you have to conduct yourself in the NFL. You have to you get all the glory when the team does well. Like you gotta be the shield that protects everybody else. Even if it's not your fault, you need to go out there and take the slings and arrows for those guys. And that's how guys follow you.
Yeah. And I think he learned that lesson this week. And the other guys in that locker room, they were saying all the right things. The other offensive players, they were saying, we've got to be better than that. This isn't good enough. They stood up for the defense and said, that they let the defense down. And then you have your quarterback who was supposed to be your leader out there. And, he's not sending the right message and he's not saying the right thing. So there were some questions about Zach Wilson's maturity level as he was getting drafted. That was one of the things that consistently was brought up. Does this guy have the maturity? He played at BYU. Everything was set up perfectly for him. Would he be able to handle the market? Would he be able to handle the pressure? And he did a very bad job on Sunday after losing a tough game for his team. Meanwhile, Patriots, let's go back to the offensive line. We talked about David Andrews and his health. Isaiah Wynn, Greg, is out. Connor McDermott, he's back.
Yeah, Wynn's out with a foot injury. Yadni Kajust also popped up on the injury report today and is questionable. I'm trying to think. I don't even think they have another tackle beyond that, like as far as guys that have been with the team throughout. So they signed Connor McDermott, former 6th-round pick of this team. One of my favorite sort of guys to poke fun at in training camp when, nobody else cares about offensive line play except for me. He was one of those guys that, when he came in, he wasn't very good. I mean, to his credit, he has stayed in the league as sort of a fringe, he started some games, but he's been a fringe sort of back of the roster, practice squad type of guy, smart guy, tough guy, knows a little bit about the Patriots system. So I think that makes it a better signing for them because look, they could, they're going to be down. They're going to be down to James Ferentz at center. They have Rusi behind him, sort of on the interior. Trent Brown should be where he is. Cole Strange should be where he is. Chasen Hines, I think, is still on the roster, the rookie guard. So they have him and Rusi as far as interior guys. Cannon is on IR. You're going to be without Wynn. You could be out without Kajust. So McDermott is a guy that he's probably going to need to be dressed and be ready, and at least he knows some of the Patriots' old scheme, so it shouldn't be totally foreign to him.
Yeah, this is not what you want, though. This is not the setup you want for your offensive line. We had offensive line questions to begin with. Now you're dealing with injuries. You're dealing guys, shuffling in and out. Andrews probably out. It's not what you're looking for if you're the Patriots. So, I mean, look, McDermott is a guy who gets picked up after Cannon, and we talked about Cannon. You've talked about Cannon and his lack of his foot speed and how he's aged. And so McDermott was like the guy who was on the lower rung than Cannon. So I don't think we should expect or anticipate McDermott to play terrific football if he goes out there. Let's just hope he doesn't get the quarterback killed like some of the other guys have almost actually done that. Mission accomplished in a mission you don't want accomplished. All right, let's talk about the Jets game. Look, this was a fist fight in a phone booth. You and I talked about this before the game. We knew it was going to be low scoring. We knew both offenses would have some issues and that the defenses would play well. And that was, Greg, before we knew that it was going to be a really tough weather day. And Your first note about this game is on offense and defense, the Patriots managed the game better. Break that down for people and tell them how the Patriots managed it better than the Jets did.
Yeah, so, I think that, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, maybe you see it a different way, but I just think people are totally underestimating how much of a factor weather was in that game, the wind, namely.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about it, bad on us about our discussion. We probably would have been like, definitely pound the under if it's going to be windy. I mean, it was, walking into the stadium, it was unbelievable. And I'm not one of these guys who gets there 3 or 4 hours early. I was there like an hour before kickoff. So, I was feeling sort of the real stuff. And I think Belichick alluded to it in his post-game press conference where he said, it wasn't so much the wind. It was just that it would gust. It would die down and then really gust like 30, 40 mile an hour winds. I mean, when I'm watching the coach's film and the end zone view comes up and the goalposts are right there and you're seeing them swaying back and forth the whole first half into the second half, like that's significant. I mean, that's something that has to be managed, especially if you don't have Josh Allen. Now, maybe the Jets think that Zach Wilson can spin it and cut it through the wind. Probably can, a little bit. But I thought the Patriots, watching it on film, you could tell one team understood what kind of game this was going to be, from the conditions to it's going to be low scoring, and the other team just didn't. And the Patriots, as an offense, it looked like, there weren't that many deep passes. There was one deep one to Nelson Aguilar that I actually thought was a nice pass from Mac Jones. It's just Nelson Aguilar mistimed his jump. And to me, watching it on film, that was the win. The Jets had a similar play. I don't know if it was Wilson or Mims on the sideline where the receiver's, again, hanging up in the air. The ball's in the vicinity, but it's just not timed up because the ball was moving or getting held up or, all sorts of stuff was happening if you threw the ball 20 yards into the air. And I think the Patriots just realized, unless it's there with a very low risk of it, floating up in the air and getting picked off, we're just going to check it down. We're just going to go short. Hit the running backs. It's fine. And the Jets on defense, Robert Saleh is one of these cover 3 type of guys. We do what we do. And he didn't say, oh, well, it's really windy. Mac Jones doesn't have the strongest arm. Maybe they're not going to throw very deep. Maybe we should compress this thing and take away the understuff and make them throw over the top, which is basically what the Patriots did on defense. They're like, Zach Wilson is talented, but we want him to throw as deep as possible into that wind. He might throw us a couple of balls. And I thought that the Patriots took away the shorter stuff, the quicker stuff that the Jets would have liked to have done. The Patriots packed it in more, and that left Zach Wilson to, all right, now I got to scramble around. Now I got to throw over the top and throw off platform. And to me, that was the difference in the game. That's the reason for the yardage disparity, the completion percentage disparity. It's not Mac Jones was that much better than Zach Wilson, even though he was better than Wilson in this game. I thought it was because the Patriots wanted to play into the conditions and the type of game, and the Jets allowed them the way they played defensively, where the Patriots said, no, we know we're in a dogfight in a phone booth, and we're taking away all the shorter stuff. So you have to throw over the top. And that made it more challenging for Zach Wilson, and the Patriots played it exactly right. And it led to, they basically controlled the whole game, in my opinion. That's how it felt to me.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots moved the ball in this game. And we'll talk more about it. The issues were, again, inside the 30 and the red area. It's been a problem for this offense. It continues to be a problem for this offense. With the conditions, Nick Folk was not as effective as he usually is. So you knew, Folk, I was reading on Twitter before the game that he missed a 40-yard field goal during his warm-ups. And you just knew, man, this offense has had so many issues in the red zone. If Folk can't deliver, how are they going to score? And we saw it play out. That Marcus Jones, that's how they're going to score 6. That's how they're going to put it on the board, because Folk could not make those field goals between 40 and 45 yards, which the guy has been rock solid as a Patriot. It was just the conditions killed them on Sunday. And, they were moving the ball. They were getting down there. And then they'd have issues, and they'd have a misstep here, a misstep there. I thought Mac took a bad sack at one point in the red zone, which really hurt them. But the offensive line, Greg, again, mistakes in crucial moments as they're driving. They get down into the red area, and they just make mistakes. And you have a note here about the offensive line, some stats. They gave up 6 sacks, which we all saw. The percent pressure rate, which Greg always talks about with this O-line, 35% pressure. And then trying to run the football, the run stuff rate was 38%. So you put those 3 numbers together, again, Greg, it was not the best day for this offensive line.
No, it wasn't. I will say that overall, I mean, it's better than where it's been, especially in terms of pressure rate and stuff rate. Like, it's a slight improvement, but it's not good enough, not against a good defense. And, I don't know if you caught wind of it in your travels, but I was on Felger and Maz yesterday again. I don't mean to come off like I'm not a Mac Jones defender. I whatever the film tells me, like, that's where I go. And if the film tells me Mac Jones stunk, I'll tell you, that was the case against the Colts. I thought he played better in the first Jets game, depending on how you viewed the potential pick six. I thought he managed that game well, and I thought it was good quarterbacking considering the defense that they were going up against. And I think, people have lost sight, so in this game, in a real bad weather game, it wasn't Buffalo last year, but it was close. Almost 300 yards, 13 first downs, averaged 5.5 yards per play. Jones completed 85% of his passes, which was, his expected completion percentage was 74.7%. So, it was good. It was his being plus 10 was about 8th in the league. It was his best mark since about like week 7 last year. 9.1 yards per attempt. Now, I understand a lot of it was yards after the catch. I get it, but sometimes that's playing offense. So, the Jets, the Bills 2 weeks before, it was 76 degrees at MetLife. It was 11 miles per hour wind. The Bills offense had 317 yards, averaged 5.2 yards per play. Allen completed 53% of his passes with 2 interceptions and was at 6.6 yards per attempt. And then 3 weeks before, when the Patriots were last there against this defense, 59 degrees, 1 mile an hour wind. Patriots had almost 300 yards, 19 first downs, averaged 3.8 yards per play, completed 68% of their passes, 5.5 yards per attempt. So this was better than they were 3 weeks ago. It was better than the Bills were on a perfect day 2 weeks ago. So you got to keep things in context that, like, it wasn't good, tough wind, tough opponent, but I do think that there was progress made. But you're absolutely right, Nick. The stuff inside the 30-yard line, like, just can't go on. And to me, it starts with the offensive line. That being said, I will say what they just went through. The Bears, when they had everybody, the Jets, the Colts, and the Jets again, I don't know if they're going to see a gauntlet like that the rest of the year in terms of defensive line. So you're hopeful. If you're a Patriots fan, you're hopeful this is the worst that it can get as far as the offensive line.
Yeah, man, look, to me, the Mac Jones stuff, it's gotten to the point where it's just out of pocket. Like, people are out of pocket about Mac Jones. They're going too far with some of the criticism. And again, I'm not being an apologist. When he plays bad, I'll say he played bad. I tweeted out on Sunday that, to a layman watching the game, considering what you just brought up, this Jets defense, the Jets front seven, the weather, the inability to run the football consistently, your offensive line mistakes in front of you, all of those things. I thought Mac played, I said really well, maybe really was a little bit of a stretch, but I thought he played well. They moved the football against a really good defense. And I thought he looked more comfortable than he had looked before the bye week. He was taking some of the checkdowns that we've said he hasn't always taken, finding Damian Harris a couple of times, finding Stevenson. I thought he took, 1 or 2 sacks that were on him. That he could have thrown the football away, and one of those was in the red zone and caused a deeper kick for Folk, which he missed. I thought that was just a killer of a sack to take.
Absolutely.
But I thought the dude played well, and it's just to me, it's gotten lazy now. It's the easy go-to. Oh well, it's Mac Jones. It's Mac Jones. Like, people were tweeting at me, and I'm like, did we watch the same game? Like, I walked away from that game not sitting there saying, oh, Mac Jones is the reason why they only scored 10 points. I mean, again, your field goal kicker missed two kicks that he usually makes if the weather's better. You gave all the numbers. They moved the ball. I didn't think he was bad. And it's become the low hanging fruit in New England immediately to say, oh, well, they put 10 points on the board because Mac Jones isn't a good quarterback. Like, I think, again, it's to the point where a lot of people are out of pocket with this stuff. You talked about inside the 30 in the red zone area. And it all starts with the offensive line. Looking at how they move the ball, Greg, I did think that we saw some changes, a concerted effort to get Jonnu Smith the football a couple of times. That was nice to see. They try to get Hunter Henry involved a little bit. I think they could have done more of that. We saw the 2 tight ends in the backfield with the running back. They had that formation a couple of times. Off of the bye, did the offense look the way you thought it would look? Did it look different? And how much do we put into the weather as to why maybe it looked a little bit different?
Yeah. We'll have to see ultimately on how much the weather. I mean, we'll obviously see them Thursday night on a short week in a dome and against a defense that, I'm not really all that scared of. If they're a decent offense, an average offense, they should be able to put up some points against the Vikings. So, we'll see. I do think you talked about the offensive line on Monday. I went through all the sacks. Definitely the one you're talking about in the red zone. I put that on Mac. I mean, there wasn't anybody readily open and the blocking wasn't good. That was the one where Trent Brown got shoved into Mac Jones's knee and almost ended his season. But still, I put that on him because he's just got to know the situation where he's just got to spike the ball in front of Steve. Even though Stevenson's like taking his sweet ass time, getting out on his route and turning around again. Mac Jones has to be aware, like, dude, I just can't take a sack here. I just got to throw it at Stevenson's feet and let's just kick the field goal and move on. Because there wasn't anything on that play. And I agree with you. The first sack of the game, I do think you could also argue is on Jones. I ultimately put it as a team sack because I couldn't quite decide because they did set up a swing pass to Harris on the left that's there, and I like that. I don't know why Mac didn't take that. For some reason, he really wanted to throw to Hunter Henry, and, guess what, Nick? This is going to be a shock to you. Hunter Henry wasn't looking when Mac Jones wanted to throw the ball. I mean, it's the first play out of the bye, and here we are again. I'm watching it on film, and I'm already ready to impale my eye with my pencil. But yeah, I mean, look, the inside the 30 stuff was problematic. And you're absolutely right. It starts with the offensive line. I mean, we've had this discussion in years past where the Patriots are a grenade offense at this point. It's like, every 2 or 3 plays, some explosions going off over here or over there. And now they're behind it's like clockwork. I mean, they get in their first drive and I did a whole column breaking down the chances that they really had and what went wrong. And I sort of put a fault and, I mean, they get to the Jets 29 in the first quarter and the first run is for 2 yards. Where Wynn and Jonnu Smith don't sustain their blocks. I mean, that's just not good. But they do get a first down when Jonnu Smith. I like that play. I liked. After that 2-yard run, they did sort of like a fake handoff to Stevenson, fake to Bourne, and then screen, over to Stevenson. Like that play. Nice job, Matty P. I like that. And then the next one was Jonnu Smith coming on an end around. And we talked last week about, maybe letting him carry the ball like Aaron Hernandez. And there he is. And it looks like he might have a chance to score. And of course, he drops the ball. I mean, that's another grenade going off for this offense. But, they did have a first down. Still, that got them a first down. He jumped on the ball. The Jets didn't recover. 1st and 10 at the 15. Here they go. Still, guess what happens? Kendrick Bourne lines up offsides again. Now it's 1st and 15. And then, they're just a disaster at that point to where, they get down. Kendrick Bourne makes a guy miss, gets near the first down marker. And that was the end of the first quarter where, okay, they go to the quarter break, they come back, they're on the field, and then Belichick calls a timeout and they kick the field goal. Dude, just toss the challenge flag. If you're going to take a timeout, have them look at it. Maybe they maybe they inch you closer, you go for it, maybe you get the spot. I thought he got the first down. It was just stuff like that over and over again. They're back to being the grenade offense, and it starts with the guys up front, the blocking most of all. There was one play in that mix where it looked like Kajust and Owenu were both running a pass play when it was a handoff to Stevenson. That's poor coaching. There's just stuff going wrong all over the place. But the good news is if they can just get out of their own way, they might actually start scoring some touchdowns. I mean, it's there, but man, they keep just shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, we got to get to the defense. We got to get to 3 up, 3 down. We got to get to athletic greens. I do just want to make the comment where you're coming off of the bye and Patriots get the football and you're like, all right, let's see what they worked on all this time. Let's see what happens. You know, you're trying to be optimistic, and then first snap, sack. Then you get like a 3-yard run, and then it's 3rd and 14 punt. Like, like right off the bat, the first series of the game is like, I've seen this before. There's a sack. There's like a 2-yard run. There's a 3rd and very long. No chance. Just punt it right now. Just give in. It's over. This drive is over before it even began. It took 5 seconds to ruin the drive. Before we get to the defense of 3 up, 3 down, Greg, tell the fine people that listen to the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles about our friends at Athletic Greens.
I started taking AG1 because I wanted to make sure I was getting all the vitamins and nutritional supplements I needed in one place. Now I've been on it for over 4 months, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It's got kind of a mild tropical taste, a little minty, and I actually look forward to it each morning. It's the truth. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things you're looking for. I take it first thing in the morning. It's now part of my routine, and I'd be lost without it. Love how it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, huge for you people in New England who are definitely lacking sunlight right now, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Bedard. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Bedard to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, so let's talk about this defense. I think people will watch it and say, oh, the Jets aren't very good, and Zach Wilson wasn't very good. And maybe they'll say the defense looked as good as it did because of the Jets helping them out here and there. When you watch the film, was this a case of the Patriots just playing really good defense? And, you know, yeah, Zach Wilson wasn't great, but the Patriots made him not so great.
I think that the Patriots dominated. I do think, again, I think they made it worse because they played into the weather conditions. You know, they basically like packed things down. Sometimes they didn't, you know, really have the safeties very deep. It was a lot more aggressive towards the line of scrimmage than they normally play. And so they were able to shut down the Jets running game. In the second half, they made an adjustment where Mac Wilson or Raekwon McMillan was spying Zach Wilson. I thought that was a good adjustment by the Jets early to have basically, you know, and we talked about it going into the game. If I were Robert Saleh, I'd be like, dude, you're throwing first read. If it's not there, run. If not, throw it away. And it looked like that's what they wanted to do in the early going. And I thought that for a while, Wilson was managing the game well, and the Jets were doing some things. But I think at the end of the day, you know, that Jets offensive line is very challenged. The Patriots beat them up front. The interior guys played well. The edge guys played well. Judon did his thing. I thought the linebackers played really well, all of them. To me, it was the highest graded linebacker game that I can remember, probably in a few years. You know, all of them, from Juwan Bentley to Jelani Tavai to Mac Wilson, Raekwon McMillan, and then the cover guys did their thing, you know, which they do. They had a couple iffy plays here and there. Jack Jones gave up a 30-yard sort of punt. That's going to happen on a day like that with the wind holding things up. But I thought overall, the defense looked really, really good, and now it's a question of, you know, are we going to find out? Are they really this good, or was this sort of the run of, you know, offenses and quarterbacks that they've been on, similar to years prior?
All right, so let's jump to a quick version of 3 up, 3 down before we get into this Vikings game on Turkey Day. 3 up, Greg, for you.
For me, it was Damian Harris, who just in 15 plays, I thought popped off. Yep. I had him for 5 explosive plays. I don't know why he didn't play more. I don't know if that was health. Jelani Tavai, I thought he played excellent in this game. I certainly still have my criticisms of him and wish that his spot was filled by a more athletic guy. But this was his type of game in a phone booth. Not the fastest team, not a bunch of guys that are going to run away from you. And I thought he played really well, whether it's inside linebacker or on the edge in the run game. He made a really nice play, Nick, on the Kyle Duggar sack where Duggar came. It was like a flush call where he comes from the backside. And Tavai was up on the line as the defensive end. And Wilson wanted to throw a quick 3-step drop into the flat. And it was there. I still think he should have thrown it, but because Tavai dropped back instead of rushed, that made him hesitate. That allowed the sack to get there. And so, Tavai's a really smart player, and tough. Don't love his lack of wheels, but good player. And Matthew Judon was my third up. Another 2.5 sacks, 5 impactful plays. 1.5 sacks, 2.5 pressures. Every week it's the same thing.
Yeah, Judon's a beast, man. He's an absolute beast. He's just. I thought Damian Harris looked really good too. So I'd be interested to know why he didn't get as many touches. How about the 3 down?
All offensive line. Yadni Kajust, 1.5 sacks, 4.5 pressure, and he ended up on his butt on 1 sack, which is not good. Cole Strange didn't give up anything in pass blocking, which has been making its round on Twitter. People also don't understand that he gets a lot of help on passing downs because the center, if he's uncovered, he turns one way or the other. Michael Wynn does not need help. So almost every time if the center's uncovered, they're helping Cole Strange. So, that not that Cole's been bad in pass pro, but that helps him. But he was a train wreck in the ground, including there's one play, Nick, that I broke down on video as part of this talking about inside the 30, where Cole Strange pulls and he ran into 97 on the Jets, and it was like he ran into a brick wall. It was like my kids. It was like my kids when they were 3 running into my knee and like being knocked back. Like that's I don't point that out to make fun of him or say, oh, he's terrible. Those plays happen. It happens even to all pros, but that's kind of how it's going for him right now. And I bet you he's like, thank God I'm done with Quinnen Williams this year. Like, I mean, just a nightmare.
My goodness.
And Michael Wynn. This was his worst game of the season. Normally he's one of the best. He's the best guy on the offensive line. I'm a little bit worried, Nick. We'll see how this goes. He's not in the injury report, but he was so bad in the second half compared to the first that I'm a little bit worried about a possible, injury popping up. So keep an eye on that this week against the Vikings.
I hope not. That's the last thing they need is that guy to be banged up. All right. Before we get to Bet Online, our pick for the Vikings game, let's break this down a little bit, Greg. You write about the Vikings that they're similar to the Patriots offensively. The offensive line, some injuries are holding them back. You're not the biggest fan of Kirk Cousins. When you watch the Vikings operate offensively, what are some of the things that you see, and where do you think that the Patriots might be able to attack them?
So, very talented team. As far as skill guys, I mean, we're talking, Dalvin Cook's great at running back. They just picked up Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson. That guy's he's amazing. I remember evaluating him coming out, and he's the son of Sean Jefferson, the former, longtime NFL receiver who's now a coach, I think, with the Cardinals. I think I saw him on Hard Knocks. But in any event, I just remember him coming out and watching his film, and I was like, I've never seen a college receiver run as good a routes as he does. And I just loved him. I was hoping the Patriots would get him because I was like, here is one wide receiver the Patriots can't screw up. Justin Jefferson, do whatever. But of course, he shot up draft boards and they had no chance at him. But he's spectacular. He's dealing with a toe injury. I think that, you start there and then, the big thing is you look at them. They're very similar to the Patriots in terms of I would say Mac Jones and Kirk Cousins are kind of similar. Won't not the biggest arms, not the greatest athletes. If it's open, they hit it. Their offensive line is bad, and it's dealing with a lot of injuries. Christian Darrisaw, who's one of the best young left tackles in the game, just suffered his second concussion of the season against the Cowboys. There's no chance he's playing against the Patriots this week. That's a huge bonus for them. There's some guy named Blake Brandel from Oregon State who will play for him. He's awful. So, very similar to the Patriots in terms of, I don't even like O'Neal, the right tackle. I don't like a lot of their stuff. I do like Cleveland's okay, the left guard. Bradbury's okay, the center. But this is similar to the Patriots, middling quarterback, good running back, good potential running game, good weapons on the outside, tight ends that you can throw to, but nobody can block for anybody. It's the same thing as the Patriots. Like, you don't know, Vikings can get loose. When the game gets loose, they can start to, put up some points against certain defenses. But I don't see how they score many points in this game against the Patriots because I think the Patriots are just going to own them up front.
Wow. And when you watch, they obviously had the 425 game of the week against the Cowboys on Sunday. And they got throttled. They got embarrassed on national TV. So it'll be fascinating to see how they respond to that. And
Nick, what else? And Thielen's their other guy at receiver who I left off. Who I haven't dug huge into their offensive film. I watched 2 games worth of their defensive film, and I'm halfway through the Bills game. I don't know. I don't see Thielen very much. KJ Osborne is another guy. One thing to know about the Vikings. Another thing that plays into the Patriots in this matchup, the Vikings have been terrible this year against man coverage. They rank near the bottom of the league in all sorts of categories. The Cowboys play a lot of man coverage. They struggle with that. The Packers, the 2 lowest scoring games were against teams that play a lot of man coverage, and Patriots are right up there in terms of man coverage, and they do it well. So you combine the coverage with the potential mismatch up front. You're looking at a potential, similar to what the Cowboys just did to them. I don't know if the Patriots are going to score 40 points, but that potential.
Yeah, the Cowboys labeled them. And so defensively, I think the questions from the very beginning of this year for Minnesota, it was about that defense. And what have you seen when you watch them defensively? I know you look at that run defense and you think they've got some question marks there.
Yeah, I do not like their interior guy, even though there's some hope. I think he's questionable that Dalvin Tomlinson is able to play. He hasn't been playing. He's been dealing with a knee injury all season. And I was just switching. I just want to take a look at their base. I do not like their interior. I mean, look, Preston Zadarius Smith on one side, really good edge guy, but nothing, huge. Danielle Hunter, another good guy on the edge, but nobody who's dominating. I don't like their linebackers all that much. I do still like Peterson at corner, but he's not what he used to be. Shelley, the other outside corner, is okay. I really like this Chandon Sullivan kid, who is their slot cornerback, and Harrison Smith, their safety. I just think that the Patriots, I watched the Cowboys ran all over them. The Bills had success running against them, and they can't run the ball at all. I mean, this should be a game where the Patriots are actually able to be balanced offensively and, really play into that. And you talked earlier, Nick, about things that I wanted to see from this team and whether I saw them in this game. At times, I don't know if you saw it the same way, but I thought the Patriots were much better under center. They look like a much better team. They ran the ball. Yeah. They ran play action. They did that up until they got to the 30, and then all of a sudden, here we go. Shotgun, one back, gun runs, crap protection. Hopefully this is a game where they say, you know what? Let's be the more physical team. We can be the more physical team. Let's line up. I wish they had a fullback to put back there for a game like this, but let's just go. Let's let our guys get going in the running game, run blocking, and let's go from there.
All right. So last week, 9-1. That's where I'm at. Greg is at 8-2. Greg is very frustrated by the punt return that hurt his pick. says it should have been a field goal game, but it wasn't, Greg. That's not how these things work. And this week we've got the Vikings minus 2.5. The game obviously is in Minnesota, so the Pats are the road dog, minus 2.5. The over-under is 42.5. Greg, where do you sit on this one?
I love the Patriots in this matchup. It's going to take, the offense is actually going to have to do something in this game, which makes it a scary proposition. But, I think after my hope is that after facing the Colts front and the Jets front in their last 3 games, that the Vikings are going to look easy in comparison and that they're going to be able to execute more consistently. The grenade offense will be at a minimum, hopefully, but when you start seeing explosions, go off, good luck. It's not going in a good direction. But, I'm hopeful that I think that the defense can do a number on the Vikings. I think that if Darrisaw was out there, I might think a little bit differently. But I think that's a huge, huge injury for it's like the Patriots losing Trent Brown. I mean, it's bad enough, when you don't have when you have your full complement of guys, but then to lose one of your best offensive line, especially at left tackle, that's tough. So I love the Patriots in this matchup. I think they're going to. I'm banging the money line on this game. So I'm going to go with even though the Vikings are a team, if you get up on them, you better not ease up because they're coming back. Ask the Bills and other teams because that's where they're at their best. They've actually been basically outplayed the last 3 weeks, and they're 2-1 in those games. So I'm going to go Patriots 20-17.
All right. I'm going to lean Patriots too. I think the coaching staff is, on a short week, quick turnaround here. What happened in that Dallas game. I do think the Patriots can run the football. If they can handle Cook coming out of the backfield, I think they got the secondary that I'm not going to tell I'm not going to say that they'll shut Justin Jefferson down because he's just so good. But I do think, Kyle Duggar will do a good enough job against Hawkinson. I do think they'll be able to handle Adam Thielen, whether, they double Justin Jefferson from time to time, whatever they do. I just think you can't give up the big plays to that guy, right? Keep everything underneath, GTFB, as Belichick would say. And I think the Patriots win the game. I think they can run the football against these guys. I, like you, hope that they play under center a little bit more. And we see some of those power runs in between, in the interior offensive line. I think that they've been able to pick up some chunk yardage. They did that last week. Damian Harris had a nice run straight up the gut. I'd like to see that a little bit more. And I will go with 24-20. So I'll go with the over, and I'll go Patriots getting the 2.5 on the road. Other games, Bills, Lions. Bills are 9.5-point favorites, Greg. Quick pick on that one.
I like the Lions. I mean, I think the Bills will win, but I think with all they've been through, the Bills. By the way, one thing I wanted to say real quickly, another thing going for the Patriots in this advantage is that the schedule actually plays, it's giving them an advantage in this week. So they had a bye week, and then they played the Jets, who they had just played. So they didn't really need to spend their bye week on the Jets at all. They could spend it getting a real game plan together for the Vikings, whereas the Vikings had their bye in week 7. They're on a real, as far as preparation, short week. The Patriots, you probably used the bye week to game plan for the Vikings, so they have a big advantage there. I think the Bills win this game, but I think the Lions got a little something going. They've won 3 in a row. I think they're, Normally they make these games fun for a while, and I think they're going to make this game fun, and I think it's, going to be about a touchdown game.
Yeah, 9.5's a little bit too big for me. I agree with you. Josh Allen's, he's going through some funkiness, whether it's injury and in between the ears, whatever's going on. He has not been great the last few weeks. So I think the Lions can kind of stay close enough to the Bills. I do think the Bills win. Dallas is a 10-point favorite against the Giants, Greg.
I'd like the Cowboys to cover that. I mean, I know it's a big margin, but I don't think the Giants are that good. I think it's finally coming around, the regression to the mean. And I will also say one thing to point out with the Vikings, and this is similar to the Giants. The Vikings their DVOA over a Football Outsider, which is an overall rating. We've talked about it before. The Vikings are 24th in the league. They're like according to advanced analytics, they're a bottom third team in the league, where the Patriots, I think, are like 11th at this point. So according to advanced analytics, the Patriots should win this game on Sunday. I look at the Dallas Giants the same way. I think Dallas is starting to get in a groove. Dak's starting to get in a groove. And Pollard is just the big difference maker in that offense. They'll be able to run a little bit on the Giants. I like the Cowboys flexing on the G-men.
Yeah, I think you're right about the Giants. I've been saying this last few weeks. They found ways to win, and shout out to Brian Daboll for getting the most out of Daniel Jones. But I don't think they're a very good football team. I don't think their record is indicative of who they actually are. I think Dallas is feeling good, especially after what happened on Sunday. They showed out on national television. So I would lean Dallas as well with that one. All right. So the BSJ member question of the day brought to you by our friends at Boston Sports Journal. Don't forget $39.99 on the annual plan. You get all the great Boston coverage. You get the weekly chats with Greg. You also watch the coach's film as well. What is the member question of the day, Greg?
So I was trying to find it, but basically the gist was, was somebody who said, for all the talk about Devin Lloyd, and I mentioned Devin Lloyd about Tavai, and of course people are probably on the Tavai bus right now. Aside from the hot start in his first 3 games, he has been pretty generic since then, especially the past few games. Check his game log, below average production. Not saying he won't be a fine player, but Greg and others have fitted him for a yellow jacket. First of all, we haven't. Second of all, and then there was another guy who said, well, stop with he's athletic. Look at his numbers and this and that. Like, look, I studied the guy on film. He's a good athletic linebacker that, could grow into more in the pros. And I don't think he's going to the Hall of Fame. What we wanted, and I think Nick was on board with this, I think, we looked at the defense and we're like, they're talking about being faster on defense, yet they're not bringing in any fast linebackers.
Yep.
And here you have a chance in this part of the draft where a guy like Devin Lloyd will be there. And here's the bottom line. I don't give a crap what any player does in any other uniform that the Patriots could have drafted. It's a completely different scheme, completely different coaches. It's like J.C. Jackson going from the Patriots to the Chargers. Like, if people want to look at J.C. Jackson. He's playing for Brandon Staley. Like, they suck. Like, maybe he's not using them the right way. Maybe he's not playing man coverage. Whatever it is, it's not working. My point is that I think you put those players in Patriot uniforms, especially Lloyd with Gerard Mayo here and Bill Belichick. I think Devin Lloyd with the Patriots had a chance to be a dynamite all around every down linebacker that this team lacks, and I'm not going to back down from that, no matter, from his game log.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought Devin Lloyd was one of those guys in the draft. I was hoping the Patriots would pull the trigger. And look, I don't think the book is going to be written about all these guys, right? I mean, it's 1 year in, everybody settled the hell down, but I also wouldn't be taking any kind of victory laps. I wouldn't be taking any victory laps or anything like that when Cole Strange has looked the way he's looked without David Andrews on the football field. Okay. So if we're going to sit there and talk about Devin Lloyd and blah, 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 Cole Strange, he's not playing well at all. So I think everybody.
Speaking of rookies who have gotten benched.
Yeah. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? I mean, the whole, I don't want to relive the conversation too much, but the entire idea was the value of an offensive guard versus the value of a guy at the second level of your defense who can go sideline to sideline. You can usually get a guard in the 3rd or 4th round, and those guys will be good enough. Belichick has done it plenty of times before. If you want somebody who is a legitimate athletic linebacker who can make an impact and can change games, you usually want to draft those guys in the 1st round. That was the argument of, Cole Strange, as Greg, I think he said at draft time, Cole Strange, if you do what you did, right? If they bring in Cole Strange the way they did, 1st round pick at guard, and I know this year's draft was a little different. You had 3 or 4 guards drafted in the 1st round. That's usually not the case. But if you're going to use a 1st round pick on a guard, that dude has to be like Hall of Fame worthy. Okay. Because you can get guards, right? You can find plug and play guys on the interior of the offensive line. You are not going to, find linebackers that have that athleticism that can make those game changing plays very often in the middle rounds. It's, you'll find them. Of course, there's always anomalies, but that was the beef. The beef was, what was the value of when you got Cole Strange and you could get one of those corners that were out there, one of the linebackers like Lloyd that was out? That was the argument. It wasn't apples for apples, folks. The argument was, could you get somebody who could play at the level of a Cole Strange in the second, third, fourth round at guard and take the guy that is that kind of athletic freak at the second level of your defense? That was the argument. Let's not move the goalposts. He's Greg. I'm Nick. I enjoyed this from a hotel room in Virginia Beach. I think we did okay. We'll watch the game tomorrow night. I think Greg will probably be doing the next one solo because I think I'm traveling over the weekend. But everybody enjoy the turkey, enjoy the cold beverages, enjoy the football tomorrow. Thanksgiving, one of the best holidays of all time, right? I mean, it's Christmas. I don't know, neck and neck for me. Until the next time, he's Greg, I'm Nick. Be well.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.